You guys are going to love this episode because it's inspiring when life kicks you down, how resilient we can be as humans. Henry Washington couldn't even be on the loan for his family home because his credit was so bad. So he took his embarrassment and turned it into productive energy by fixing his credit, paying the people that he owed, and now successfully acquired over 100 rental properties. I was actually intrigued by the twist. He's no longer acquiring more properties. He's significantly focused on flips, which is actually great for the current market condition where the interest rates are a bit high for rentals to cash flow. All right, well, tell us about what your business like today.
My business today is not much different than it was when we first got started. So we still mainly market off market for deals. We buy singles and small multifamilies. We tend to flip most of the singles and we try to keep the multis. But, uh, for us, it's more about we've kind of started to scale back the buying and holding because I'm pretty comfortable with the size of my portfolio. And I want to get to a place where I'm actually paying off some of these assets now. And so we're about to pay off the first one here in a week. So
okay, congratulations.
First paid off house. Same thing. So we market mostly direct mail. We do some cold calling and we buy everything that's a deal and we'll either sell it or rent it.
Yep.
Boring real estate.
Yep. What is the size of your portfolio right now?
100, somewhere between 100 and 120. We're selling a few right now.
Awesome.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. And when you first got started, I think Jessica had something to do with.
This is my first tenant.
Yeah. Is he really?
Yeah.
Tell us that story.
Well, it's. I feel like more powerful if you tell it. I look like a jerk.
When we got married quick. So we met and then we got married 365 days later to the day. And then, so that was like a fast marriage transition, but like I hadn't grown up financially. I had bad credit, lots of debt. I made great money, but I also spent a lot of it.
But he also liked sports cars and fixing it up.
So. All right. We don't have to tell him what I spent money on. Just that I spent it would have been
useful
fine.
Things.
Yeah. So when we got married, I quickly realized that my bad spending habits weren't financially impacting just me anymore, and they were impacting our ability to do things like buy a home. And so when we applied to get a loan for our first home, the banker called me, the loan officer called me and said that I was essentially hindering us from buying a home, and if I wanted her to be a homeowner, then I would have to be removed from the loan, which was a blow to the ego, because I was the breadwinner. I wanted to be the rock, the financial foundation, and I just, I couldn't be like I wanted to, and that was kind of my first wake up call. So, yeah, she says I was her first tenant because I wasn't on the loan, but she let me live with her. She didn't charge me rent even. It was really nice.
Sugar mama.
Yeah. I think that was my first wake up call that I needed to do something different, both in terms of financial education, but then in terms of like making enough money to sustain ourselves the way we wanted to.
Man, that had to hurt.
It was, it was uncomfortable. It wasn't as uncomfortable as the conversation that came after that, because I wanted to be the financial head of household, because that's how I was raised. That's what I wanted to do. And she was like, why would I trust you to do that? So.
But the fact that it hurt actually showed that you cared.
Yeah.
So surely that had to feel good from your end to see that he cared.
Improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to be better.
A lot of hard dating conversations early on, including, I need you to prove to me that you can be the financial manager of the household.
Yeah.
And this was the first house.
Yeah.
You weren't doing real estate investing, either one of you.
No.
Not that time.
No.
Well, how did that develop?
The real estate investing?
Right. Yeah, because first of all, I mean, you didn't just go from not being able to buy a house to I'm going to buy 100 houses. Did you?
Which seems ridiculous, because that was my fix
Is that what
for
happened?
the problem. Well,
I mean, yes, but kind of why is a home mortgage so much harder to get than a real estate loan on an investment property?
Yeah, it was so it came about because as a part of that journey, I knew I needed to change something financially. We started to save money. We were savers before. Well, I wasn't a saver before. So we started to save money and we started to educate ourselves. And I told her, I was like, look, I think we can invest in real estate. All these people have done it. I knew I needed a way to make more money because of the goals we had and the things we wanted to do. And it seemed like buying investment property was going to be one of the better routes to do it. Now I had to save money. I had to fix my credit, right? I had these mountains to overcome along that journey. But when I was motivated to do it, it all became a lot easier to overcome those obstacles. And then we ended up buying our first house, which we found through word of mouth. And after we bought that first house and we rented it out, then we got a line of credit on the equity, and we were using that to buy like that. We knew we had access to funds to buy more after we bought that first one. And that's when we really realized.
That's what you were talking about earlier. We used a 401k loan out of my 401k for our first investment property.
Yeah. That one, again, not only did she allow me to go down this journey and be the financial head of household when I probably had no business being that at the time, but she did. She lent us the money for our first property out of her 401k.
Yes. So was that through like a self-directed IRA, or is it just a loan that you can use personally?
Yeah, you just essentially pay it back to yourself. So
Got it.
you accumulate the interest. You're just on the schedule.
Yeah, I had never heard of it. It was actually a real estate investor buddy of mine that told me that was an option. And I told her, I asked her if we could look into it, and she called her employer, got all the details. But yeah, we borrowed it from her 401k. They took the payments out of her paycheck, essentially, and we rented the house out and were able to use the cash flow to pay back the loan. So we didn't have to use any of our own bank account money. We used some of the retirement money to buy that first deal, and then we got a line of credit.
I totally forgot that was an option.
Yeah, it worked. It worked out well for the first deal. Yeah. And I would tell people, like, it's a good option, but the key, you got to make sure you buy a good deal. Like, fortunately
It's not
for
gonna
us,
fix that.
yeah, it won't fix you buying a bad deal. It'll compound the problem if you buy a bad deal. But
right, if you take a loan out to buy a bad deal, that's double bad.
So we, we paid $116 for a house that was worth like $165. So worst case scenario, if we got into this thing and realized we were in over our heads, we could sell the asset probably for more than what we paid for it in its current state. So we had an out. And so anybody who wants to look into an option like that, make sure you have an out, because you don't want to be owing on that 401k plus not having an asset that pays for it.
What would the out be? Just the deal's good
Sell
enough that you could sell it and make the profit, pay it back right away.
Yep. Absolutely.
Don't kid yourself. We were terrified.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But I still get scared almost every deal I do.
I don't see them.
So
that's why I don't tell you.
Was your credit ever required at all for any of the real estate investing you did? It was?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were using commercial loans from local banks.
Yep.
And yeah, they do look at your credit, but it's not the only. Yeah. They, once or twice a year, depending on the bank.
Yes.
But it's not the only criteria they look at.
What did you do to also work on the aspect of your personal credit?
I hired a company to help me dispute some charges I felt like shouldn't have been there, and get some of that stuff off my credit. And then I did probably the best credit repair hack known to man.
What is it?
It's super secret.
Okay. You can't sell it?
No, I can't sell it.
No, you can't tell it is what I'm saying.
Oh, I'll tell it.
Yeah.
I'll tell it. So I looked at my credit report and I saw all the people that I owed money to. And then I paid them. Credit went up.
Awesome.
Worked like a charm.
Yeah.
Every time.
Great.
Every time. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the truth is.
Very simple.
Yeah.
And I get it. A lot of people have. There are things that are on your credit
Easy to get
sometimes
in
you
over your
can't get
head.
out of. Like medical debt's insurmountable sometimes. But like the stuff that was on my credit was dumb. I had some.
No,
funny
his
enough,
credit was full of things that were like, I'm putting up a fight, but I'm the only one losing.
I had a bill from Verizon that I felt like shouldn't have been there. I was right, but at the end of the day, it was hindering my ability to buy real estate, so I just paid it.
Yep.
I also had a bill from my first landlord who charged me to put new carpet in after I was like the fifth tenant that lived in that place.
Oh, wow. And it was on your credit.
And it was because I didn't pay it.
Got it.
They put new carpet in, then charged me for it, and I wouldn't pay it.
Do you ever charge your tenants to put in new carpet?
Absolutely not.
How did he do that?
Just like kind of decided he wanted to.
It must have been in the lease
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah. Decided they wanted to. So
Blame you for damages.
So I ended up having to pay that down the road. And again, both of those charges I felt like I shouldn't have had to pay, but they were it wasn't stopping him from doing what he wanted to do. Like I needed to pay them so that I could be lendable and build a future, and I'm glad I did.
Wow. Okay. How long did that process take?
Fixing the credit, maybe
Maybe
6 months to a year. Yeah.
Okay. And it fixed the score in a relatively short amount of time, because then you're saying within 6 months of tackling all that, you're able to go to a local bank and.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, the first time I applied for the loan at the local bank, my score wasn't high enough, and so we had to do a little more. But a lot of these banks have access to tools that they can tell you exactly what you need to pay on your credit to bring your score to where it wants to be. So if you're in that position, I wouldn't say just don't go pay things blindly. Like, if a bank runs your credit and tells you your score is not good enough, ask them specifically what you can do, what you would need to pay, and how much it would bring your score up, so that you can be strategic about it.
I think it can be as simple as like removing you as an authorized user from certain accounts.
Yeah.
And so at this point, you worked on your credit, you were living in a house that she had bought, and then you had done your first investment deal, right?
Yep.
So that was enough background for you to go to the bank and say, I want to get a loan on another investment property that I'm going to repair and then refinance?
Yeah, so what happened was, when we did that first deal, there's a whole long story about the first deal, but in a nutshell, I had this contract for that deal. I went to the banker, just by chance. I went into this bank, had no idea it was a local bank and they had commercial loans. Like, I didn't even know what those things were. But the commercial lender happened to be in the lobby. He looked at the contract, he Googled it, and he was like, man, you're buying this for well less than what it's worth. Like, we would love to lend this. And so he talked me through the commercial loan process. He told me I need a 15% down payment. That's when we went and got it from a 401k loan. And then when we bought that property, the lender called me afterwards and said, hey, I want to give you guys a line of credit on this property. And then as you find more deals that are as good as this one, bring them to me. And instead of you putting 15% down now, just use this line of credit. So you don't have to use any of your money. So he was explaining to me how to basically the Burr method. And he was like, then once you rent it out, you'll refinance it, you'll pay us back the line of credit, and then you can go do it again. Or you can flip it and sell it and pay off the line of credit.
How many local banks did you have to talk to before you found somebody?
That was the very first one.
Guy.
That was the very first
one. Is that typical?
No. I mean, it was
I think it's changed.
Yeah, well, sometimes. There's still banks that do that. But at that time, I just, right place, right time, meeting that lender. And I would have found that information eventually, I'm sure. But it was lucky enough because I learned a lot. He talked me through. He basically told me, he was like, look, you bring us these loans, they're great for us. Because he was like, look, if you default, we'll make more money. So, because we can just go sell the asset and make more than the interest payments. So we will fund these all day if you can continue to find these good deals. And I had no idea that was even a thing. So I knew at that point, like, I had figured out where the money comes from. Now I had to go figure out how to find more deals again. And so that's what I've always, I guess, specialized in, is direct to seller finding deals, because finding money has been easy.
Where are all the ways you find deals?
Mostly mail. Mostly mail right now, but we're starting some cold calling as well. Starting back on some cold calling. I'd done it a couple years ago and then stopped. And then looking into some AI cold calling as well now. Haven't started yet, but about to start some of that. And my website. So just through SEO and Google AdWords. And then I do radio ads.
Cool.
Which have been good.
That's really cool. I wish I could hear myself on the radio.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think I've ever heard. I've heard the ad maybe once. I don't listen to the station that it runs on.
I gotcha.
Yeah. But it's the ad helps more so for brand recognition.
Okay. Yeah.
Because people hear the name and then they've probably gotten some of my mail and they piece the two and two together and it builds the trust.
Yep. So when did you get started with all this?
2017.
2017. Now you have 100 properties or so, a little bit more. What about the 100 was like, oh, I think that's good enough for me. I think that's a good size for me in terms of the properties that I'm buying, renovating, and keeping as rentals. Like, why did you decide to switch gears now?
Yep.
I don't even know that it's been really switching gears so much as market driven. Like, there's just, it's
Higher
harder
interest
to
rates.
find
Got it.
buy and hold deals right now.
Yep.
Harder, not impossible.
And I look at real estate in 3 buckets, right? So you've got a bucket for growth, a bucket for stabilization, and a bucket for protection, right? You, as an investor, no matter who you are going to operate in 1 to 2 of those buckets at a time, right? So when you're starting out, obviously you're growing. And when you're growing, you're doing a little bit of stabilizing, but mostly you're acquiring, right? And then as you slow down on acquiring, you're probably stabilizing your assets. And then at some point, you have to transition into paying off those assets because you got to protect the assets that you have. Because if you got a loan on it, you truly don't own it. Someone can come and take it from you. And so I want to get to a place where we've got a good chunk of paid off assets that's providing us income. And across all three of those buckets, you need an income stream.
Yeah.
Right? And the income stream for us has been flipping houses, right? And so we flipped to help us start acquiring, and now we're flipping to help us stabilize and start to pay off.
Yes.
We'll acquire less, we'll continue to flip until we pay off, and then we can taper off on the flips the more real estate assets are paid off, because they'll produce more cash flow once they're paid off. So that's our retirement end game.
Yes. I completely understand, I think, what you're saying. I had 18 rentals, and I bought all of them. It started out with like a 3.5% down loan that I had a primary residence for, right? And then I would move into another primary residence, get the same low down payment, correct. Some of those houses actually doubled in value, but the more debt you use, the more exposure you can get to appreciation, and the more rental properties you can have. But also, if there's a lot less tenants, then the more at risk you are, because you have all those payments. And if for some reason you have more vacancies than others, right, it can be a little bit more risky. But as time has gone on, I've gotten a lot more equity, but I chose not to refinance the properties simply because it's like, dude, this is great. The rents have gone up, almost doubled. My payment has stayed the same, and I just kind of like it. It's not like maximizing the aggression on how fast I can grow, but it is kind of nice to see that I have a 50% equity position. It's a comfortable place. It can help you sleep at night.
Absolutely.
After the initial, aggressive like acquisition.
And those interest rates are hard to top.
Right.
And I think part of the decision to taper off the buying, especially for now, was because, again, like having a large portfolio costs money, right? And the expenses wear on you. And yes, you save from your rents to pay some of the expenses, but sometimes things pop up you're not aware of. And when you
always on holidays.
When you've got $100, like right now it's starting to get hot, I'm gonna have HVACs that go out. I've got 120 doors. I'm not gonna have one HVAC that goes out. I'm gonna have like 10, right? At $6 to $8 grand a pop, right? Like it gets expensive. And so for me, it was about like, I feel pretty comfortable where I'm at, and I know that 50 to 100 paid off properties in the next 10 to 20 years are going to provide me enough income to do whatever it is that I want. And as once I start getting a good chunk of them paid off, maybe I'll decide I want to go buy more assets. I have no idea. But for now, like, I got to protect some of what I have, because the world's getting crazier, the economy's getting crazy. Like, having that income stream coming in guaranteed, no one can take my assets from me. Like, I need that protection.
How much would you make on like a flip these days?
We average between 35 and 60, 50, somewhere in there. Just depends. I won't do a deal if I'm like 35 is my minimum profit. I won't make anything.
Are you doing the whole thing, or is it just like a light flip?
At 35, it better be light.
Yeah. We'll make it depends. We'll do a mix. I don't like anything that's down to the studs. I don't want to do that much work. Typically, because my market doesn't have the margins to support. So when I do a flip,
I'm guessing, what's the average household price in your market?
It's like
250?
350, 360.
Oh, 360. Okay, so it's lower than the average US. It's not the lowest.
So in other words, like the way I evaluate a flip is I want to make in dollar profit what I spend on the rehab. Like, that's my gauge to whether I want to do the deal or not. So if I'm putting 50 in a house, I want to make close to 50. If I'm putting 100 in a house, I want to make close to 100.
Yeah.
So if I have a house that's down to the studs, it's probably going to be $100,000 to a $200,000 remodel. And the likelihood of me making $150,000 on a flip in Northwest Arkansas on a home in the price range I'm comfortable flipping at is pretty slim, because I don't want to do luxury flips. Like, I want to stay first time home buyer market, because I want to have the majority of buyers when I'm putting a house on the market. So a house that's down to the studs, the juice isn't going to be worth the squeeze for me. I'll let somebody else do those.
Got it. Yeah, that is a good benchmark, though. I had done a pretty extensive flip where I put like 125 into it, and then the gain was about $100,000.
Perfect.
So
that's perfect.
I didn't really think of it that way, but it does make sense to have a 1-to-1 ratio like that.
Yep, I do that. And then that's a sliding scale. So, like, for example, I have one right now where we're probably going to make about 40 and I'm spending about 60 on the renovation. And the reason I'm okay with 20 grand less than I would typically like on that is because it's in a neighborhood I know where it's going to sell. It's a floor plan I've done a million times, so I know this floor plan sells. It's concrete foundation, right? It's a house that's built in the 80s. So I know what's coming there. There's not going to be big surprises in the walls or things that I'm like, I know this product moves and how it moves. So I'm confident. The more confident I am, then the more risk I'm willing to take. But if I'm not confident, then the more profit I want to make. I want to be paid for the risk.
Yep. Do you look for houses differently now that you're flipping them versus when you were going to add them to your portfolio? Or are they pretty much the same houses?
I don't know that he knows what he's going to do with it.
Yeah.
When he looks at them.
Yeah. I just, all I'm seeing when I'm looking at a house is what's the price that I want to get this for? I'll figure out what I want to do with it afterwards. It'll really depend. It'll depend on what my contractor's availabilities are. It'll depend on what my cash in the bank situation looks like. It'll depend on, how many loans I got going at the time and what's the funding going to look like, right? It really depends. What I'm going to do with it, my business will dictate what I'm going to do with it, but I know what I want to buy it for.
So do you both work in the business?
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
How do you divide up what you guys
She
work
does all
on?
the not fun
If it
jobs.
sucks, it's mine.
Yeah? Is that by choice?
No, not my choice. No, I mean, my background is in accounting and internal audit. So like bookkeeping and taxes and those relationships and stuff, that all
You don't want me
naturally
doing
should
that.
fall to me.
You don't want me doing that.
We're not necessarily either of us the most organized people on
You
the
definitely
planet.
don't want me doing that.
And I mean, I try and pick up where I see he's stressed. So if there's something that I can do, and it might be minor, but if it'll help and just make life easier, then that's fine.
Yeah. So mostly she does accounting and bookkeeping and then helps a lot with the design of these houses. She just sees things that I don't see.
Got it. Well, I have a question. Do you go for the same design in all of your flips so that it's efficient, you have to make less decisions, or do you go for uniqueness so that it can maybe sell for a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm like, no more gray. No more gray. No, I think you have to have something like, yes, you need to appeal to every buyer, but if there's some element that'll catch them off guard or something that helps them remember when they're walking through those open houses or those tours, just anything that can help you stand out. It's like we've been doing, I have a very handy sister and she is our handyman, and she does not like being called that. She's done a lot of feature walls for us, but like not what you see, like just the traditional board and batten. Like she's done some like really cool oval, like mid-century modern style.
Intricate designs.
Yeah.
She's so yeah, no, I'm not the let's pick this one tile and use it for everything and for economies of scale. First of all, I mean,
we're not buying in bulk.
We do 15 to 20 houses a year. I don't think we need to do that. But I think part of the reason our houses sell and people like them is because we design them for that particular buyer in that particular neighborhood. We want them to look unique and stand out. And so we're okay taking the extra time and doing a little bit extra work to make them look unique. We try to make them special for people.
Yeah. One thing I haven't heard you say before is you actually have a piece of land that you are asking for somebody to build a spec home on.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So
Two for one special.
Part of my strategy over the past year or so is acquiring houses that have additional lots and land.
Yes.
Or a big enough lot that I can split.
Dude, I've been pulling data for people like that. I don't know. I mean, do you have a way to pull it? I found out in DealMachine, if you put lot number contains a comma or a dash, it'll filter all those immediately. You could just hone in on your marketing with those.
I don't need to write that down because you just recorded it, but I'm definitely going to use that.
Yeah, because I heard people say this earlier this year, because you can break even on the flip, but make 80 grand just on that lot by selling it. Or in your case, you're going to build another house.
We've done you have so many options with it. So we've done it where, so like in one scenario, I bought a duplex that had a lot next door. And again, that particular loan that I was going to have to use to buy that piece of property because it was outside of our normal buying area, they were going to require us to put 20% down. And normally I don't put any money down. And so I was like, well, let's just sell the lot next door. We called the D.R. Horton, who builds homes in the area. And they were like, we'd buy that for $20K. Perfect.
Yeah, that's what you need.
Yeah, perfect. So we bought the land. I put the 20K down. I sold the lot to them and got the 20K right back in my pocket. So we've done it that way. We've done it where we just hold the lots because we're either going to build them or sell them later. We've done it where we buy the flip, we underwrite the flip at the ARV, but not including the extra lot. And then once the buyer gets the house under contract, we say, hey, we own this lot next door for another 25 grand. We'll throw that in too. And they're like, yeah, we want that. So now we make an additional 25 grand on top of our ARV just from the free lot. So we've done it. So I've got like 7 or 8 lots now that we're either going to build and sell or build and rent on at some point. There's 2 in particular I'm going to try to do this year.
That's cool.
I'm excited about it.
And have you targeted them specifically before, or they just showed up in your marketing?
They started to just show up.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, we need to be targeting this specifically. And so there was one market we were specifically targeting it, and we flipped all those. We flipped about 8 or 9 lots in Joplin, Missouri.
Fast.
Yeah.
As soon as we get them, they would be in there. We wouldn't even close on them, have them under contract with a builder already.
It's like a true double close.
Yeah. We flipped a bunch of them.
You've gone viral for saying that you should post on social media about flipping homes.
Yeah.
Look, I get Facebook messages from people from church, so it works.
It works, yeah.
Do you get messages from people who want to sell the homes, or is it people that would like to lend you money?
Both.
Okay.
Every time I post on social media, I get leads for deals, I get leads for contractors, I get leads for lenders, I get leads for subcontractors.
Let's get serious. Those might be the most valuable leads.
It always generates something positive in my business, and all I had to do is type a few sentences on social media. Like, I don't understand why people won't take the time. Do it once a quarter if you can't do it once a month, right? Like, just literally type out your phrase that you want to say in whatever gibberish comes into your mind, put it into ChatGPT and say, make this sound better.
Yep.
Take that, copy and paste it into your notes on your phone, and then set a reminder on your phone once a quarter, copy and paste this into Facebook.
I saw you posted it today or yesterday. And I was like, this man lives what he preaches.
Yeah, man.
Because that clip that went viral was like 2 years old.
Yeah.
Right? 2 years ago, you were like, there's one thing that you guys can do, and I promise you, none of you will do it.
No one does it.
Yeah.
No, it blows my mind.
Post on social media.
Easy and free. People say
get
they want
embarrassed.
deals. Yeah, people get. They do.
There's
They do.
a fear of what their community will think.
I think people are scared of like, well, what if it works?
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to
I
do
gotta
if I
do
get a
something.
lead? Right now, I got to actually follow through on what I told myself I was going to do.
How much would you expect to make on the lot? You didn't sell this lot. You're not going to build a spec home on it, right? So is it a design you get at like Menards where it's like, oh, this is like a 3-bed, 2-bath. I've turned this into a...
Yeah, it'll be a spec house lot. It'll be a spec house for sure.
And you'll invest in the build, or you'll sell it to somebody who's going to build on it?
No, I'll build it. I'll build it and sell the house.
Okay, cool. Do the
depending
margins
on
like
what
that
cost to
work
build
just
is.
like you would do on a flip? Just like, hey, I expect to make a 30% margin on the value of the house or something like that?
Yeah. Cost to build right now.
When the lot's free.
Yeah, lots free, right? So cost to build right now is anywhere between $140 and $155 a foot, and in that neighborhood, cost to sell is $220 to $250.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, there's margin.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else new you guys are doing this year other than focusing more on flips and doing that spec build?
No, that's that's what I've been telling people. I'm like, man, I get on social media and I see all these people.
You don't want to be the
pivot. Everybody's pivoting to do something, and I'm like, I'm doing the same thing. It's because
There's a lot of stress in pivoting too.
Yeah, I picked an old, tried and true method of investing in real estate. It's landlording and flipping houses. Like, neither one of those strategies are going to go anywhere unless something drastic changes with real estate laws in the United States. It's not sexy, because everybody's heard about it, but it works. So I'm just going to continue to do it. We'll just, the volume with which we do one strategy or another may change.
Oh, yeah.
But the only pivots we make really are in how we market for deals, depending on what's working in the moment and what's not, and whether we're going to keep it or rent it or short term. We do have some short term rentals. We've got about 5, about to be 6.
I manage those.
About
That's
to be
the other-
6. Yeah, she does manage
That
the
is
short
the
term
other
rentals.
thing.
She asked for that one though.
Did I?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you recommend would you recommend doing short terms, or why did you pick those 5 to be short terms
Honestly,
compared to the rest?
I think for it wouldn't work for the majority of our portfolio. I
Yeah.
think these specific properties
Very strategic.
are in an area that does have a lot of tourism.
Yep.
We have a lot of mountain bikers that come to the area,
Mhm.
and then they're all near like Fortune 100 companies, so they're bringing people in all the time.
Yeah.
They're-
The city specifically that these are in does
They're all in the
not
same
have
city.
enough hotel lodging to support the tourism in the area.
Yeah,
now
beautiful.
they're building a few, so we'll see
Yeah.
what happens over the next couple of years.
So there's no regulation on Airbnbs because they know they need them. Now, as they're building these new hotels, my guess is once they build enough new hotels, the very rich people that built them will say, hey, city, you need to regulate these Airbnbs because we want all these people. So we're not buying deals that would not work if we didn't have to Airbnb
They
them.
were long-term rentals first.
We can always go back to long-term rentals. There's only one of them that we couldn't make a long-term rental, but there is so much equity in that property that we could just sell it.
I have a question. You're here at the Better Life Real Estate Conference in Austin to make sure people here walk away with some knowledge that's going to help them out.
Yep.
Everybody here has paid at least $1,000 to come and learn from what you have to say. Can you tell us what's like 2 things that you really want people to walk away with?
Yeah. First and foremost is for brand new people. Like, I think everybody's waiting for this other shoe to drop, whether it be they're waiting for a market crash or they're waiting for interest rates to come down. Like, everybody new is waiting for something like this perfect time. And real estate's like any other investment platform. Like, you can't time the stock market, you can't time crypto, you can't time real estate. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. What we can control is the price point we're willing to buy property at, and then what you do with that property. And so what I want people to focus on is don't worry so much about what's going on the outside. Get really, really good at knowing what a good deal looks like in your market. And if you're one of those people who's very concerned about a crash, historically go back and look at real estate crashes in the United States. It's all out there. Ask ChatGPT. It'll tell you. Ask it the percentage in decline property values went down across the nation during every real estate crash. It's somewhere around 15 to 25%. Okay, so if we know that, that means you need to buy properties at a deeper discount than 15 to 25%. And then we're buying properties at a much deeper discount than that. So we're protecting ourselves against the crash by buying below what the values of the property would be if there was a crash historically. So that way we wouldn't be upside down, or we'd still have an opportunity to sell out of those properties at a price point that's above what we paid for it. So that's one way to hedge against the protection. If you're one of those people that's worried about interest rates, then you need to learn how to analyze your properties at the interest rates that they are now and figure out what's the price point you need to buy property at to where that interest rate still allows you to cash flow. That's going to rule out some markets for you. You're probably not going to be able to buy a rental in Austin, Texas that meets those numbers, but you may be able to buy a rental in the Midwest somewhere that meets those numbers and protects you against that interest rate. Like, there's a way to get into the game and to hedge against the thing that's scaring you. So what you need to get really good at is deal analysis in the market you want to buy deals in, and then pick one strategy to find deals, and then go hard at that strategy. Because the coolest part about real estate investing is that it's established.
Yeah.
Right? It was long before you and I ever bought property, people were still buying property using the same methods we're using today. Using things like direct mail, talking to sellers, buying under value, and then renting or selling them out. So you can still do that. Just pick one marketing method and then go hard at it until it works. Do the research. Look, ChatGPT changed the world. Just go ask ChatGPT, in this market, in this part of the country, how many mailers, direct mail, do I need to send essentially to get me a deal? It'll tell you.
Yeah.
And then do that until you get a deal. Just do one thing until you get a deal.
I noticed you've mentioned ChatGPT a couple of times. Is there any other ways you've incorporated AI into what you're doing?
Yeah, mostly just ChatGPT is my brain now. And no, I'm playing. Yeah, so we use a lot of ChatGPT, obviously, but we also use, like I said, we're going to look into some AI cold calling.
Yeah, that's right.
We just found an app that
It's going to change my life.
Yeah, we just found an app that'll essentially make calls for you and get information. And so, like, we had to call to turn on utilities at a place, and we just said, hey, call the city of Siloam and get utilities turned on
Add
at
it
this
to this
address.
account.
Boom, do it. And then we called to check on hotel rooms. We said, hey, call, see if there's any rollaway beds in this room, and it'll just call and do all this for you.
You just get the
So it's just
transcript.
What's the app?
It's called
Simple AI.
Simple AI.
Okay.
And it'll call anything, but
You can prank call.
yeah. So we just use it to not have to wait on 45 minutes on a customer service call, and it just does all that stuff for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, if you need homeowner data to get phone numbers, DealMachine has that as part of your subscription.
I know. That's where I pull my phone numbers from right now.
Good.
Yeah, we'll skip trace. I was driving for I still drive for dollars.
Yeah.
Literally driving for dollars the other day when I was on my way to go look at a house, and I was early, so I just drove the neighborhood and started adding new properties, and you can pull phone numbers and call a seller right there.
Yes. One of the things I was going to say about timing the market is you can't time the market. You said that. It resonated with me. When I was getting started in 2018, my boss had 5 rentals, and I could see that they cash flowed because I was working at his company, and I went to look for a property. Nothing would cash flow.
Yeah.
I thought he was so lucky he bought those in 2009
Yeah.
when there was great prices.
Yeah.
But I found out there are people doing deals because there's meetups going on. So I went to the meetups, and I found out that I had to go find deals.
Yeah.
Looking for a rundown house. A seller in distress would prefer speed and convenience over that price. And I built my rental property that way. And now on social media, people look at me, oh, you bought those in
lucky.
2016.
You got
You're
lucky.
so lucky. The
Yeah.
price was so good back then.
Yeah.
And they're,
Guess what? In 5 years, you'll be saying the same thing about now. Go buy a house.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was funny and
Yeah.
worth mentioning. As we wrap up, I wanted to allow Chris to ask some questions.
What I want to ask is like for someone like, because I'm at like before square one if I was going to start doing anything. So you guys pretty much average like you guys said 2018 or 2017 you started investing. So that's like 8 years, 120 properties. That's like 1.4, 1.6 properties a month, roughly.
Some of them are multis.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like that's like a pretty fast pace,
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, it was.
and especially off like the 401k
Yeah.
loan, that was already kind of risky.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you like?
Well, they finished that one before you did the second one, I think, right?
We kept that as a rental.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that
Our
was.
you know what? Our first flip was incredibly risky too.
Oh really?
It was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
We
It
nailed
was-
it though.
The more high end, it's probably the most high end flip that we've ever done.
Yeah.
It
Wow.
was really kind of dumb in hindsight, but it worked out. It
It
worked
worked.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was risky because the price point was higher
We
than
couldn't-
the market,
we
higher
couldn't-
than the average market
The
price.
only exit we had was to sell it. Like we couldn't have thrown a tenant in there.
And we sold it for
and
sale
rented
by
it out.
owner.
And your big thing is have multiple options.
Yeah.
So if
More than one
options
exit.
work out well, the other one is
We had
More than
for
one
sale
exit.
by owner, open houses even.
Yeah, and your exit can be like both of your exits can be to sell. Like if you can sell it as it is, and get out and make some money or break even, great. If you can sell it for a profit, get out and make some money, that's great. But you got to have 2 exits.
Sorry, you
Well,
gotta finish that question.
yeah. No, that was good too. I never thought about that. But what were you guys doing before? I don't know if we talked about that. Like,
Yeah.
what were you guys doing before? Because sometimes, like, obviously, it like helps to have some cushion cash before
Yeah.
you get into real estate.
So we didn't leave our day jobs until Henry, when he had to, would have been
2021,
2020.
2020. Yeah.
Yeah, it was during COVID. And it was just one of those, like, it made more sense. He was making more money doing real estate than he was, you know, the time commitment to work.
Yeah.
For me, well, when you were what was it, a portfolio
Yeah, I was a asset manager.
asset manager for a real estate company.
Yeah.
I was an internal auditor at a bank. And when I left my job, we kind of were waiting for that sign. Like, how are we going to know that it's time for me to leave? Like, what's that look like? And it was 2021. And we had a flip that was for sale. And the above asking offer, like the difference was my salary to the penny.
This was the height of real estate going up in value, and so we got
It
an
was great.
offer
It was-
at 80K over asking, and she was making about 85K as her salary.
But it was,
No.
whatever it was like to the penny. And we were like,
And I was like, look,
that's it.
we just made your
That's the sign.
That's
we
it.
just,
That's it.
We just made our profit plus your salary. So let's just put this in the bank for a year. You don't have to work. And if in a year we decide you need to go back to work, then you go back to work.
However, when I told my boss I was leaving, her response was, we saw this coming.
Yeah.
And
My boss said
then
the
I
same
went
thing.
in to tell Henry that I had turned in my notice. And he's on the phone and they're talking about how the deal's falling through.
I was on the phone with my agent, and the agent was talking about the deal falling through, and she had just quit her job. Oh man.
Like, how fast could I run back to my computer?
What happened? Did
It worked. It worked out fine.
The seller technically committed fraud. The seller had a contingency to close. We were getting ready to close, and the seller needed the property to sell in California so that they had the money. But they didn't tell us they had a contingency, and we couldn't close. And so I had to make a decision on whether I back out and put this thing back on the market, or
And you did?
no. Luckily,
you waited?
Luckily,
It was fast.
It was fast. It took about a week.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
great.
And then, so we had a little week delay, but yeah, we both,
Didn't sleep well that
but
night.
yeah, it was a rough night.
Was there any other close calls like that? Like,
Oh,
It's always
gosh.
close calls. Always close. Our deals fall apart all
Look.
the time.
Get a septic inspection.
Oh gosh.
Because
Yeah.
how much is a septic if it doesn't go well? Like, how much is
Anywhere
replaced?
between $5,000 and $25,000. Just depends on what kind of septic and where it needs to go. And yeah,
We've had one
so we had,
Minus.
what's she talking about? So I bought a property. It was a house
on an extra lot.
with an extra lot, and we remodeled the house. And when my contract was like, "Hey, turn the water on," we called the city, and the city was like, "We don't have this house on the map." And so we went looking around, found out it's not on city water; it's on a well. And we
I'm
were
like,
like,
sweet.
"All right, well."
I'm good with that.
We were fine with the well.
Free water.
Yeah, got the well pump
Selling
working,
feature.
turned on, put the house on the market. Finally, once it was done, buyer was an FHA buyer, so
Multiple
FHA inspection.
offers.
Yeah, FHA inspection. They inspected the water system, and through that inspection, we found out that our well and our septic system were too close together.
Oh, yeah. That's not
So,
good.
so our well,
Yeah.
your well and your septic have to be
Plot twist,
100
it
feet
gets
apart.
worse.
yeah.
It gets worse.
They need to be 100 feet apart. These were about 30 feet apart, and so the FHA buyer.
They held on for a while.
They held on for a while, but basically, now that we knew this information, we had to remedy it, and the only way to remedy it was to tap into city water. And this is a house basically on a state highway, so they had to burrow under the state highway to get to the water. So it's about $20,000 worth of work to get a water tap,
Oh, wow.
and another $10,000 worth of work to fill in the old well
And the holding cost.
decommission the well, plus the holding
Wow.
costs. So $30K hit that
So
we
we'll
weren't
let you know how that
expecting.
works out, but
Yeah,
we're still sitting on that one.
Is it rental?
No, it's,
No,
it's a flip.
no, I can't
It's
put,
a flip.
can't put a tenant in that right
It's a
now.
flip. We had a lot of margin. We'll still make money. We just won't make
And we have the lot.
what we thought.
But
And we
see,
don't.
like that's another. We had the opportunity. Like we could have tapped into the house next door because the house next door is on city water. The line.
The lot that we're
literally,
going to keep has a house on it.
So if we wanted to bundle them and sell them together, we could have just tapped into that water meter. But
But we want to keep the lot.
so it's
So
worth it to.
we're
Got
just
it.
going to pay the
come
money.
in.
Wow. So you guys, so you waited, so you were already in it for a couple of years before you quit.
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're how old?
I'm 23.
You live here
Yeah.
in Austin, Texas?
Yes.
Okay. You rent?
Yes.
Okay. You haven't told him to go buy a duplex yet?
No, I rent too.
Yeah.
No, I rent myself.
You rent? Yeah, but you have houses.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love house hacking.
Go buy a
Yeah,
duplex.
yeah. I would.
We
Yeah,
did
I
that.
was thinking about like I've seen a lot of people do like duplex, triplex.
Yeah.
We did a
Quadplex.
single family
That's
with a
what we did.
mother-in-law suite in the back.
Oh,
and so
really?
we truly
Yeah.
were independent of each other. But
Changed our lives.
Huh.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. That's so. Okay, I was just wondering. So that moment when you saw that check, you were like, okay, now it's time to
yeah, we gotta
Yeah.
go.
quit.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think a lot of people they try to hold on to their job for like safety, and then it's
Yeah.
like,
I mean, I think you
There
should.
is safety in
There
it.
is
Yeah.
safety in it because
yeah.
the banks still the banks like you having a job more than they like you being a real estate entrepreneur. So it's easier to get loans from banks if you
Yeah.
have a W-2 income. So I didn't quit my job until, like I said, until it cost me money to have a job.
Right.
Like I would have kept working, but my employer basically gave me an ultimatum. They said, "Hey, we need you to put in more hours." And I
Yeah.
said,
No thank
"If
you.
I do the math on that,
Yeah.
I make way more money outside of real estate. So I'd be losing money giving you more hours." And so that's when I quit.
So you guys must have been super time poor around that time.
Yeah,
We had a newborn
Yeah.
also.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we were.
yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
we did have a newborn.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my only question. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow.
Thank you. And And thank you both.
Yes.
It was great to have a
Thank you
female
very much.
perspective on the podcast as well.
Oh, yes.
My
Anytime.
girlfriend was like, "Oh, you should have more females on,"
Oh,
Eh.
look.
and so that
Thank
was
you, sir.
We got
really
stuff to
awesome
say.
that you came.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. I literally wouldn't be here without her. She financed our first deal. A story I don't tell a lot is she talked me back into the business when I was ready to quit before I'd even started.
Why were you ready to quit?
I had met with a kind of a mentor at the time about getting started, and I had this plan of what I was going to do.
He was
And
like a serial
he
entrepreneur.
was he owned a bunch of real estate. He owned businesses, insurance
Franchises.
companies. He was just a great businessman anyway. But he basically told me, he was like, you don't have any money, so you have no business being in real estate. You need to go figure out how to save money, and then you need to start buying assets. And you're just putting the cart before the horse. And I put a lot of value in his words because of his success. And it kind of bummed me out, but I saw his point. And I went and I told her, I was like, hey, I think we're moving too fast, and I don't think it's time to do this. And she basically grabbed me by the shoulders and said, you said you're going to do this. You have this plan. I don't think this is a coincidence. You need to do what you said you were going to do. So I did.
Wow, I haven't heard that story.
Yeah.
Where can people, if they want to be coached by you, where can they go?
Yeah, you can go to best place. Just follow me on Instagram and send me a message with the word table, and we'll send you a link with an application.
Which is?
See you at the closing table.
Yeah, see you at the closing table. Or you can go to seeyouattheclosingtable.com/home. But yeah, just follow me on Instagram at the Henry Washington. Send me a message. We'll get you going.
Cool. Thank you guys both.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.